Check 1, 2. Check. We're live. We're so live. We're live. Welcome, world. Welcome, world outside. Welcome, everybody. Today is March 16th, 2023. Are the stock markets crashing? Are we in 2008 financial crises once again? Have the banks choked us out? Have they choked us out? I do wonder. Are we there? Why do I have no data? Good morning, everybody. Marcus Conte reporting. I'm gonna wait for it to kick in, man. Kick in. Pow. Welcome, everybody, to the program. Well, it does look like there's trouble in paradise. Credit Suisse, big bank in Europe, has declared itself at the brink of illiquidity. Right? We don't have any money. Right? We don't have enough money, according to the federal regulations, the federal levels of how much liquidity a bank is supposed to have on record. It seems that Credit Suisse, it didn't go belly up, it didn't go bankrupt. It's still very, very much a active bank. The stock price is plunging, went down 20% yesterday. But is this the beginning of the end for banking once again? Are we going to see another complete debacle, freeze, where we start to see all their dirty laundry and they don't want to trade and give money, lend money to one another again, and we get this freeze and the markets crash and then everything gets ugly again, like 2008? I don't know. It is real. Two American banks, regional banks, the second and the third largest banks in America, went belly up last week. And now it's the contagion is spreading to Europe. Credit Suisse didn't go belly up, but is begging for $50 billion in backing from the Swiss government. And if you remember, $50 billion, that was about how much AIG had to ask the federal government to bail it out, or it would have it did go belly up. Right? AIG needed $50 billion because they made a bad trade with Goldman Sachs in the credit default swap debacle. So there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of history to banks crashing. And we're going to ask Chat GBT, give us 300 words as to what the hell happened in 2008. And we'll try to see historically, is history repeating itself? Or is it just nothing? It's just a nothing burger. Don't worry about it. Your money's safe. Don't worry about it. It's all rich people ripping each other off. Who cares? Let them eat each other. So anyway, we'll look at a fascinating story. Also in El Salvador, they're having a gang problem, right? And they got all these people, M61 or whatever the fuck they are, right? They're all gang members, all tattooed to the max. Gunslinging, drug lords slinging, right? Dangerous killers roaming around with tattoos on their fucking foreheads and in their tongues. All right, so El Salvador had enough of it. The president and the higher ups there had enough of it. So they built this massive prison over there that could hold 40,000 inmates. The images coming out of El Salvador are fascinating. It is. We've never seen images like this where you have all of these tattoo criminals being taught obedience, whether they like it or not, at gunpoint. So do we have violations of our human rights down there in El Salvador, or do we have a case of El Salvador finally saying enough is enough already with all this bullshit, all this drug fucking cartels running the show? Right? What about us, the little people? Right? And of course, it makes the argument completely and utterly legitimate for legalization of these the very things that these gangs make their money on. Right? So if you're in El Salvador, rather than join a gang, you can join a peace movement or something else like that. So here's my thumbnail for today. Credit Suisse doing a giant belly flop while the world watches. What kind of splash are they going to make? Is it going to be big? Or is it just going to be, I was just taking a dip in the pool? It is interesting. How does it affect the credit rating, the interest rates? Can the Federal Chairman Jerome Powell continue to jack up the interest rate in spite of the fact that the banks are now breaking? They're breaking. You're breaking the banks. Unemployment is still, unemployment. What they want, the Fed wants unemployment to go up. They want to pay less people. That's just a fact. A lot of people don't know that your government likes unemployment. They like it because the equity prices are higher. More of the profit stays in the company. Less people doing more work. That's what they like. They like a fucking slave nation. When you have a slave company where people work until they drop, and then what did you drop? Get up and work some more. Corporations love that shit. Government loves that. They don't care if you get sick later. We'll take care of that later. They just want you to work yourself to death, right? Well, we used to have 5 guys doing this job. Now I do it all by myself. Well, why don't you get yourself some fucking, get yourself some software that helps your problem, or build a robot that can lift more. I don't know. But anyway, so Credit Suisse, it is a real issue right now in the market, and we'll continue. We'll just look at it right now. So Marcus Conte, I have a website. This is now an educational philosophical stream because we're evolving. We're growing into ourselves. We are expanding our consciousness. Back in the day, we were once considered controversial and conspiratorial and all these ugly words, conspiracy. Nobody wants to be a conspirator. I don't want to be a conspirator. I'm not a conspirator. I'm an educational, philosophical type of person, an academic, if you will. That was my favorite subject in college. Although I didn't major in philosophy, I definitely got an A in philosophy. Teachings of Plato, the writings of Plato and Socrates. So that's what we're doing right now. We don't want to be associated with those nasty fake news journalism people. We're doing philosophy, right? Philosophy is challenging the nature of everything and everybody all at once, even yourself. So we're live every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're live also 7 p.m. On Tuesday evening, Tuesday live Dharma gathering right here on YouTube. And if you'd like to contribute to this program, do it through Zelle. Bank transfers are greatly appreciated, especially if you got an extra $1 billion laying around. Come on already, man. Loosen up some of that money. I'll give you some good press. We'll talk about how good you are because you gave. The more you give, the more you give and gave. And the more we talk about you. That's how that works. So let's go to El Salvador. What's going on in El Salvador? Does El Salvador have it right? No mercy. We have Guantanamo, and El Salvador has a mega prison where they're taking care of their bad guys and putting them all in one basket. So let's find out. Another 2,000 suspected gang members landed in El Salvador's mega prison. Suspected gang members. The problem there is that the courts have not found many of these people guilty of anything. And that is a problem. Unless, of course, you look like this. Right? See, if you have a fucking tattoo on your head that says, I am in a gang, right? I am gang member number 18, right? And this is my gang, and these are the tattoos my gang wears. And you go walking around with these gang markings on your body. What? Oh, what are you going to do? A court of law has to prove that you're in a gang? No, you're in a fucking gang. You're as guilty as these mofos because look, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. These are all ducks. The ducks get in the cage. But look at the treatment. Look how they're handling their criminals. Check it out. I'll shut the music off because it's probably stricken. But look at some of these images. All right, they're like taking care of their criminals, man. They're like surrounded by armed guards, naked, no shoes, just a t-shirt, not even just underwear. All right, get on the bus, man. Put your fucking head down, man. You're a prisoner now. You want to be in a gang? Good. This is how we treat gang members. So they're not playing games down there in El Salvador. It appears they've had enough. The country is being overrun by hoodlums and tattoo criminals. Should we do this in the U.S.? Is this the solution? I don't know, man. But look at that. They are head to head. Look at that. They got them like, wow. Hard to do, right? Hardened criminals. They must scare the shit out of them first. Right? If you don't do what we tell you to do, we put you in a room and we beat the shit out of you until you do what we tell you to do. All right. So, is this the right way to do it? Does this bring us more freedom, or does it bring us more aggression to humanity? I don't know. I don't know anything. So President Bukele, he's the president of El Salvador, blasted out new footage of the prison and its new prisoners being hustled off buses and into facilities as they're surrounded by heavily armed guards. Inside the prison, tattooed men in white shorts, barefoot and handcuffed, are seen huddling together as they crouch down and hang their shaved heads before running into jail cells. Yes. Those are the images we have seen. Prison is capable of holding 40,000 people. That is one big prison. It was previously reported that the prison had 32 cells, 100 prisoners each. I remember that report. It seems they changed their tune on that one. Now it's this is an interesting prison, fucking sleeping quarters. Look at this. It's like shelves. You could put 4 criminals per shelf. You stack them. You stack your criminals. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see any mattresses. All I see is a slab of metal. But hey, at least you're not elbow to elbow with somebody. At least you get your own piece of metal to sleep on. And nobody steps on your face while they're climbing up the ladder. But that's a pretty interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12. It looks like 16 criminals per sleeve. Right? In one warehouse, like your warehouse. I'm getting this cell, motherfucker. Crazy, right? That's real. That's really what's going on. I bet this guy is sad and not happy about having a gang tattoo. He probably thought he was doing the right thing when he got it. Hey, look, everybody, I'm in the gang. Now you're in the gang. No, I'm not in the gang, Your Honor. I'm not in any gang. I just a tattoo because I love tattoos, man. No, sir. You're in the gang. You are a duck. No, man, I'm not a duck. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I just got a tattoo, man. The fuck you, get in the cell. That's what the judges are telling him. So let's talk about the financial crises, if there are any. Are we blowing the whistle? Is there going to be a run on the banks? Is everybody going to get so afraid? Remember, in 2008, the banks were afraid to trade with each other. Right now, it's a liquidity problem with people, that the banks don't have the amount of liquidity to pay everybody if everybody ran to the door. It's becoming known now that banks only have 5 or 10 or less % of the money to give everybody that they took. So if the bank takes $1 million in deposits, they only maintain 100,000 or less. And if they invest it, they throw it into other assets, and those assets failed, as you're seeing. So let me read this response from Chat GBT. Question I asked. In 300 words or less, tell me about the 2008 market crash. Well, let's see what it says. So the 2008 market crash, also known as the global financial crises, was one of the most severe financial crises in history. It was triggered by a housing market bubble in the United States, which resulted in the collapse of several major financial institutions. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, AIG. The crises began in 2007 when the housing market bubble burst due to the widespread insurance of subprime mortgages and securitization of those mortgages. So the whole fucking bubble was on housing. The price of housing. It always goes up. It never goes down. Let's leverage on the price of housing. Housing ticks down. Some of these banks were leveraged 40 to 1. They go bust. Now they're actually invested. I don't know what these banks have on the books. Nobody really knows. See, that's the funny part of it today. We don't really know what the banks have. Let's continue. As the crises, in 2007, the housing market bubble burst due to widespread insurance of subprime mortgages. This led to a rapid decline in the value of mortgage-backed securities and the collapse of several major banks, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, AIG. As the crisis spread, it led to a global liquidity freeze, with banks and financial institutions unwilling to lend to each other due to fears of counterparty risk. This led to a sharp decline in the activity of credit, which in turn led to a significant reduction of economic activity. So the banks are like, I don't trust you, man. I'm not dealing with you anymore. You're fucked. It's the same thing, except today we have people looking at the bank saying, is my money safe? All right. If everybody runs to the bank, if everybody runs to the door at once and grabs their money, the system collapses in real time. Is that where we are right now? Governments and central banks around the world respond with a range of measures to stabilize the financial system and stimulate economic activity, including massive bailouts of banks and financial institutions, fiscal stimulus packages, and monetary policy interventions such as quantitative easing. Right. Quantitative easing was the solution, but right now we're still in a phase of what? Quantitative tightening. When you jack up interest rates, that's called quantitative tightening. We're going in the opposite direction right now, and we're causing the problem. The Fed activity of jacking up interest rates and rooting for increased unemployment is causing the problem. They're causing the problem. Do the big banks love it? Is J.P. Morgan and Bank of America cheering right now that the other banks are going under and that they'll have more market share? Probably. J.P. Morgan, anyway. Overall, the 2008 market crash was a stark reminder of the risks and vulnerabilities of the global financial system. Great. All right. So how does it pertain to today? That was then. This is now. How Credit Suisse just unleashed a nightmare decision for the Fed and ECB. Oh, yes, they did, right? So what happened to Credit Suisse? Right. All right, so let's look at Credit Suisse first. Credit Suisse secures $54 billion lifeline as authorities rush to prevent global bank crises. What is that crises? What crises? What kind of crises are we talking about? Is it mortgage-backed crises? Is it a run on the bank crises? Can you be more specific, please? Credit Suisse on Thursday said it would borrow up to $54 billion from Swiss Bank to shore up liquidity and investor confidence. Liquidity? You mean cash? They don't have enough cash. They don't have money. They're all heavily invested in shit that is going down in value. So they hit the threshold where they needed $54 billion in liquidity. After a slump in its shares, well, forget about the share price. Share price is garbage anyway. It's like $2 a share. It used to be like 70. The Swiss bank's announcement helped stem heavy selling in financial markets in Asia. Okay. In its statement earlier Thursday, Credit Suisse said it would exercise an option to borrow from the central bank up to $54 billion. Oh, my God. That followed assurances from Swiss authorities on Wednesday that Credit Suisse met, quote, the capital and liquidity requirements imposed on systemically important banks, and that it could access the money. So, in a nutshell, Credit Suisse dropped below the capital and liquidity requirements of a big bank, and therefore it's open to emergency. It's in an emergency. The rules and the rules of the game say that if you drop below this liquidity and fucking what else? Yeah, the liquidity mark, then you're in an emergency, man, and you gotta take that money, or or we're gonna make you take the money, or we're gonna take away your bank. Credit Suisse is the first major global bank to be given an emergency lifeline since 2008. And its problems have raised serious doubts about whether central banks will be able to sustain their fight against inflation with aggressive interest rate hikes. Okay. You can't listen, you jackoffs in fucking FDIC. If you have two problems, if you have inflation, right? If you have inflation, which means prices are higher, and you have a Fed that is aggressively jacking up the interest rate, which of those two can you change on your own? Can you change inflation with a flick of a button? No. Can you stop the jacking up of the interest rates with a push of a button? Yes. Yes. Stop doing it. Stop doing that. You're causing the problem. So you can't flick a button. You can't throw a switch and make inflation go away because it's too complex. But you can stop aggressively hiking the interest rates. It does help. It removes an immediate risk. Blah, 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 blah. Do bailouts make things better? On the one hand, you are removing a source of risk. Nobody knows. So what else do we know here? How Credit Suisse just unleashed a nightmare decision for the Fed and EBC. All right, well, that's what I just said. The stock plummets 22%. Many talking heads on Wall Street believe that the interest rate hikes are crushing liquidity. That causes the problem in an effort to bring down inflation on regular people. Stop doing that. Inflation is relative. There's just things cost more, but there's more money circulating around. There's more money to be had if interest rates, if inflation goes up. That is relative. But starving people out, choking them out by jacking up the interest rates so that they spend less on credit cards. Venture capitalists will take less money to venture, and so on. That sort of thinking. There's less money and less liquidity when you jack up interest rates. So you don't want to. Essentially, you don't want to do that. That's called quantitative tightening. That's the opposite of what Trump was saying was quantitative easing forever. Just keep interest rates zero all the time. That's what Trump said. So, again, bad stuff right here. Again, I think that, if you recall, about 2 years ago, I was saying that if you wanted to bring the United States and these, government agencies that we believe are cheating and lying and stealing and taking advantage of people all the time, if you wanted to crush them, if you really wanted to give it to the Wall Street people, the best way to do it is to take your money out of banks. Take your money away from them and go back to decentralized, types of spendings, trading with friends, trading, commodities, things that you own, more like a kind of an Indian trade, as opposed to dealing with federal and giant banks that you see are big black holes when you really evaluate them. Nobody knows the length and or degree of garbage that these stocks are holding because nobody quite understands it. Not even the banks themselves. They're leveraged in certain ways. Like they'll borrow, venture capitalists, they'll borrow $2 million and because they think that a certain company is going to buy back their stock and drive the price up. So they venture capital without any fucking idea of what they're doing. And their business is to take that money, put it in the stock market, cross your fingers and hope it goes up. Right? That's how it works. So if it does go up, then they cash in, pay back the debt, and they made a profit, right? But what did they make a profit on? They made a profit on nothing. It's make-believe. So in that scenario, if the markets go the other way, what happens? They're not only losing money, but they're losing bigly because they're leveraged on the downside. So we don't know the full extent of what Credit Suisse, and I would speculate over the next week or month, you're going to have another 4 or 5 banks come out and say, oh, we don't have liquidity. And then what are they going to do? They're going to start grabbing for the billions and billions of dollars that are available to them. So they're going to go further into debt. They're going to take more money, make the same mistakes again, and then what? What happens after that? Does it solve the problem? I don't know. This is a serious problem because it's in the hands of the investors and the individual, it seems, more so than the last time. Because they're talking about liquidity. They're talking about venture capitalism. They're talking about deposits on received deposits. So if people, I guess, come around and say, we've had enough. I'm taking my money out of these banks. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll take it and I'll burn it, or I'll plant it in the yard and see if it grows, or I'll give it to somebody who needs it. I'll just give my money away, right? Or I'll sit on it until I have nothing left, and when I have nothing left, I'll jump off the bridge. Right? How are people handling their money? I'm going to take my money, I'm going to fill up my trunk with it, and I'm going to drive across the country, and I'm going to buy myself a piece of land and live there forever and ever. It's a change in psychology, really, but that's what's at risk here, a full-on run of the banks. I think whether or not Powell visits the Capitol last week, So Powell's visiting the Capitol. The idea is that next week, or maybe even this week, the Federal Reserve is going to decide whether they're going to jack up the interest rate again, 25 more basis points. They were thinking about 50, go higher because inflation is not responding. Or if they stop it just for a little while, pause in the interest rate hike, Wall Street would appreciate that. Wall Street would like that. And they would say, okay, well, that problem we could fix that problem of banks being illiquid, but we can't fix the problem of inflation yet. And we haven't been able to do it, even though we've been jacking up the interest rate, and we think that that's the cause of the problem. So when Fed chair, you can see how it's connected. When Powell says, we're not going to jack up the interest rate anymore, he's fearful that, and or knowledgeable that they are partially to blame for these banks going belly up. You're pressuring them. Their interest rates are going up. They're leveraged. They got garbage on the books, just like they did in 2008, credit default swaps or whatever else fucking stupid insurance policies they buy to hedge their bets or whatever. Nobody knows. Nobody knows exactly. As in 2008, nobody knew what the problem was. When you said the credit default swap market, most people didn't know what it was. They looked at you like, what are you talking about? What is credit default swap market? And it turns out it was just a very proprietary internal banking market of insuring deposits, insuring, whatever the fuck they were insuring. And then they were hedging. They were hedges. So we don't know the full extent. That's what I'm trying to say. It may sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but nobody does. That's the point. The point is nobody knows what's on Credit Suisse's books completely other than Credit Suisse. And they're not going to come out and say that. Exactly. Yeah, we're dead, man. We're sunk. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, oh, everything's fine. We just need the money. And we're going to fix it. And how are you going to pay back? You borrow $54 billion. How are you going to pay that back? How do you pay that back? You're now indentured you're a government bank. You become government bank, just like, Chase and Bank of America. Those are run by government, man. Government runs that shit. So there once was a time where we didn't want government in our bank. We didn't want government in our everything. But I got news for you. We have government in everything. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think we just need to have fair government, government of the people, and then you have no problem. Now the people own the bank. See how that works? If government owns everything, that's bad for people. But in America, people are supposed to own government. I think they forgot that. Right? The Constitution, we the people own government. So if government is seizing banks, and we shouldn't really be disappointed in that as long as people benefit from it. But that's not what happens anymore, right? It seems that there's this other thing called government. Government is over there. The leaders, why are they over there? They're over there and we're all over here. Aren't they supposed to work for us? Why do we work for them all of a sudden? How did we start working for government? I thought we left the fucking King of England so that we didn't have to work for government. And now we're here and we're working for government again? I don't get it. David Brown says subprime. Jim Steele says start a war. That'll work. Bufat Daba Hobbit. Citibank is a government bank. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. AU Image Vision. It's all an illusion. All an illusion. David Brown. Janet Yellen gave out money to Zelensky. Yes, he did. Yes, she did. What else? Anyway, colossal fucking fuck up, I think, on Wall Street. What else we got? Wall Street bank stocks plunge. How's the market doing? It's now, 941. Ding, we're open. And this is reality. Reality is this morning at 9:41 on Wall Street. It's not that bad. It's not that bad so far. S&P 500 down 12, Dow down another 157, although holding at 31,700. The high was 36, maybe 35 and a half. NASDAQ down another 20 to 11,004. NASDAQ was as high as 16,000. Will it get back up there? Well, of course it will. I'm still betting the NASDAQ will go way up because of all of these new technologies. This ChatGPT and the like, GT4, I believe it is, are, they're revolutionizing the way people research, the way people write, the way people communicate. And just like the industrial complex, the late 1900s, I think we are seeing kind of an explosion in that area. And I don't see how they don't profit. Right? Everything changes when these corporations put together a search engine like that. Advertising money, everything shifts. There's a cataclysmic shift when you have revolutions like this. Right? That's what it seems like to me. When you mess around with it, you say, wow, this obsoletes poetry? Imagine that. A computer just made poetry, human poetry. What is poetry anyway? What is poetry? Let's ask what is poetry? What is poetry? Tell me. Oop. Jammed up. You gotta. This program has a little bit of a glitch. You have to refresh it, and I'll drop the question back. And what is poetry? I think poetry became obsolete. Poetry is a form of literary expression that uses language to invoke emotion and convey meaning through the use of rhymes, imagery, and figurative language. One of the unique aspects of poetry is its ability to convey complex emotions and ideas. So how does a computer, you could ask it and you go down the rabbit hole with this thing, but obviously you could see that poetry is connected to social issues, love, nature, emotion, politics. These are human emotions. So how can a computer write poetry? It does it, right? Write a short poem about poetry. Write a short poem about poetry. In words that dance and sing, poetry speaks to heart and mind. A symphony of thoughts and dreams, in rhythm and rhyme we find. Now that's pretty good, you know what I mean? But it's not, poetry is no longer a human effort. I didn't put any effort into writing this poem. The computer wrote it. I just keyed it up. I just, chummed the water. Right? So is poetry dead? Are things like literature? Can this new software produce music that is actually pleasant to listen to? A machine has never been able to do that. Generate a song. These softwares might be able to do it, but is it pleasant enough for humans to listen to and say, I like that song? Then the computer wrote it. Right? Fuck those humans. We solved the mystery of getting the human out of the way. So it's dehumanizing poetry. It's dehumanizing, maybe even music. There's tragedy in one sense, but are humans going to develop something else that supersedes that? We don't need poetry anymore. We got this other form of expression, man. Don't know. It's all a mystery. So I'm gonna kill it there, man. A little short today. Yeah, man. So markets. This is the evidence right here. Evidence. You wouldn't think that the markets are crashing, although somewhat green. The technology stocks are all green. Amazon, Google, Meta, Apple down 80 cents. Microsoft down $1.61. And the Dow down 152. Dow being most of the heavy financials are on the Dow and in the S&P, not in NASDAQ. So anyway, so there you go. So thank you all for joining me. ChatGPT, make a hafu about crashing banks. Okay. Let's ask that one. I'll let you guys go. Bafu Daba Hobbit says, make a haku about crashing banks. All right. That sounds like fun. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Drop it in there. Drop it in. Make a haku about crashing banks. It's thinking. Tick tock, tick tock, tick, 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 tick. Banks towering, walls fall. Money flows like autumn leaves. Savings swept away. All right, 3 sentences, right? Banks towering, walls fall. Interesting, man. Interesting stuff. Could I have done a better one? Could you have written a better one than the machine? Are you worthy? Poet? You call yourself a poet? How dare you? I got a software that smokes your poetry skills. So, we shall see, man. Tomorrow's another day. Thank you for joining me on this educational, philosophical stream, where nothing is carved in stone, where no political party is represented at all, where you are in the middle of everything. Peace, everybody.